Good morning, everyone. Thank you for waiting and your patience. It's great to see you all here today. My name is Kathleen Pena, and I am the Program Manager for Adult Development Programs in the Office of Workforce Development. On behalf of the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Workforce Development, and Talent Acquisition teams, we welcome you to the 5th Annual Roads to Success. Today, we would like to highlight career opportunities for you to consider for your career development and advancement. This event is designed with you in mind. We want to continue to grow your talent and invest in our frontline and early careers. However, just don't take my word for it. I now want to introduce you to Valerie Abrigo Rivera, a 2023 Roads to Success attendee. Valerie?
Thanks, Kathleen. Good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to share that I did choose to come on to Roads to Success last year. I was coming up at the end of a research study position towards the end of February. I'd been poring over job posts and listings, wasn't quite finding that fit. When I joined this program, I got to hear Magnolia Contreras speak about the work being done out of her office. And I finally found the thing that was resonating. It felt like she was kind of talking to me through the screen, looking for someone with my unique skill set. So I was like, pick me, pick me. So I hope as you all listen in today, you got to hear about something that really inspires you and feels like a great potential fit and a future for your career. So have a great time listening in today. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, Valerie. Really, thank you for sharing your experience and really capturing the meaning and purpose of this event. We want to encourage all our attendees today to use the Q&A feature. And now it's my pleasure to get us started and hand it over to Elena Andrioni.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kathleen. As she said, my name is Elena Andrioni, and I'm one of the recruiters here at Dana-Farber. I specialize in recruiting for administrative and operations level positions. I'd now like to welcome Jesse Frank and Jolie Erlacher, and I will start off by asking Jesse to introduce yourself, your title, and the department you're in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elena, and good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be here today. My name is Jessie Frank, and I joined a year ago in the Department of Quality and Patient Safety as its administrative director. And what our department does, it's called QPS for short, but we really ensure that the highest quality of care is delivered at Dana-Farber, and we define that as care that's safe, timely, efficient, effective, equitable, and patient-centered. And we do that through rigorous measurement, improvement, science, education, and partnerships across the care continuum.
Thank you, Jesse. Jolie, if you'd like to do the same.
Sure. Thanks so much, Elena, and thanks everyone for having me here as well. My name's Julie Erlacher, and I'm currently in a transition from a program administrator in the breast oncology department to an administrative director in our sarcoma oncology department. So my line of work is focusing with the disease centers and working with administrative support specialists to help function the group and all their needs, pairing with providers, APPs, and nurses. So looking forward to speaking more about their roles today.
Wonderful. So talking about the administrative support specialist positions, Jesse, I'm going to start off with you. What are some of the qualifications that you're really looking for when you're considering candidates for this role?
Absolutely. So I'll preface this by saying we don't have any openings today. However, we're a very fast evolving group. And so we're always looking for talent, particularly internal within the Dana-Farber network. In terms of baseline qualifications for the administrative support specialist role, when we screen, we're looking for a bachelor's degree or equivalent work experience, particularly in healthcare. And as I alluded to before, internal candidates really have priority for us. There's a strong reliance on relationships outside our department and understanding the organizational structure. So that's a huge asset to candidates who come here. I will also say that I'm a firm believer that technical skills can be taught, but it's much harder to adjust and develop a can-do attitude. So I really focus when I'm going through the hiring process on the interview and less on the resume. And what I'm looking for is someone who's ambitious, adaptive, very poised and confident, and eager to learn and grow.
Thank you, Jessie. Jolie, can you do the same for your administrative support specialist positions?
Absolutely. Thanks, Jesse. And agreeing with many of the things you said, I'm also in a unique position as we are hiring for an administrative support specialist in Sarcoma. So please reach out if you do have any questions. But when looking, for an administrative support specialist, I really like to look at the soft skills such as communication and time management, as well as problem solving and flexibility. And this is because, and I'll talk about it with some of the responsibilities later, but we do support so many providers. And so I do think it's important to have that flexibility, within the role.
Transitioning right into that, Julie, can you tell us a little bit more about what a day-to-day responsibility may look like for your admin support? And then we'll go to Jessie after.
Sure. So absolutely. So I really look at the administrative support specialist positions as a catch-all position for the disease centers. And so what that really means is helping out with any tasks that the department may need. And so a day-to-day would really look like primarily calendar management, working with your providers, also communicating with other admins within Dana-Farber or sometimes within your own group. I also think they typically set up meetings. They help with conference room bookings for in-person meetings or Zoom links for a hybrid option. As well as setting up meetings for getting food for an event or simply just looking at other projects to help, the processes that we have in place. So I think it's an exciting position. And I think each day does look a little bit different because the needs and wants for the customer service we're giving, which is to the providers, could change.
And Jolie did a beautiful job summing that up. I don't have too much to add. I will say the administrative support specialist within QPS each support 2 divisions, and that involves calendar management for their senior directors and then administrative support for their teams, which are usually between 5 to 10 staff deep, as well as the committees that they lead. And so that involves things like scheduling, agenda management, minute taking, and I'll say the remainder of the administrative support specialist time is really focused on office management tasks like supply ordering, equipment inventorying, as well as operational projects.
Wonderful. Jessie, what are some of the most exciting parts about working on your team? And what is something that someone might find challenging in this position?
Yeah, great question. So what I find most exciting and most motivating about working in quality management is the impact that our work has directly on patient care. Everyone on this call is a patient themselves, and maybe it's not at Dana-Farber, but we all deserve, wherever we go, the highest levels of quality in our care and in the service that's provided. And I think too many of us have stories about where our healthcare system has fallen short. So I think it's really exciting to work here at Dana-Farber, where we already have a world-class standard of care, and work every day to make that even a little bit better and lead in the field of quality management. I think a close second for me is the people who are here. We are a very collaborative, team-based culture and really relationship heavy when it comes to the administrative space. And our administrative support specialists are really recognized as equal and essential partners in delivering on our quality and safety priorities. I think the flip side of working in such a dynamic field is it's very fast paced. Quality management, the landscape itself is evolving very quickly, and we almost operate in startup mode, and that demands a level of creativity and problem solving and flexibility that can be a challenging environment sometimes, but I also find it a really exciting and energizing place to work as our priorities evolve pretty rapidly over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Jolie?
Sure. Well said, Jesse. I'd like to start with, some of the challenges and then talk about the exciting work. And so I do think some of the challenges of the role would be the provider load. And so in breast, since we have so many providers, each administrative assistant does have about 3 to 5 providers that they do support. And so being able to learn those personalities and each different need and want for the providers does take an extreme amount of organization and communication. But also on the flip side, I think it's exciting work. And because of some of the tasks and responsibilities that we did talk about earlier, there's always something new to learn. And our providers in breast oncology go to many conferences. And so you might be asked to help out with booking a dinner that's in Chicago and planning that event, or booking their travel. And I think that that's not something that we do on a day to day, but it is ingrained in the role. And I think it's really exciting that things can change and that you can add on. So I appreciate, Jessie's thoughts on her roles and the different fields of the administrative support specialist in BOC.
I think that's one of the exciting things is that administrative support specialists support all departments across Dana-Farber. So there are really, even within this job code, there's so many avenues for you to get into different departments and learn so much more. Thinking about career growth and growing opportunities, Julie, I'd love to start with you. As you mentioned that you've recently been promoted, tell us a little bit about what your career path has looked like and what advice you would give to somebody who would like to grow in this administrative healthcare field.
Sure. Well, I will start off with the advice, and my advice that's really worked for me is networking. I've tried to speak to as many leaders here as I can to help me figure out the path for my career, and I think that first and foremost is one of the best gifts I feel like I've been given. I started as a new patient coordinator here in the neuro-oncology department, and so that was really my first step into healthcare, and I was really able to work with providers and also have that patient interaction. From there, I then was a supervisor in our welcome center. And so I was able to gain supervisory skills, but also work with an amazing team that was doing different work than our new patient coordinators, but they were working together. And so as a new patient coordinator, I was always receiving phone calls from our welcome center, and I really wanted to learn the line of work that they were doing. And so from the welcome center, I am currently in breast oncology right now, transitioning out of being a program administrator, but I was able to work very closely for 2 years with our administrative director, who's Joe Scorzoni, and really learn the path to become an administrative director. And so I think through my previous role to get where I am today, I've asked a lot of questions and I've talked to a lot of individuals, and I encourage anyone who's interested within the administrative support path or a different path to definitely network, because I do think that there are so many different roles within disease centers that would be the perfect fit.
I think that's really exciting because we have some new patient coordinators here today and some members from the Welcome Center. So getting to see that growth opportunities and how much we really value internal promotion and growth within Dana-Farber is really exciting for everyone. So thank you, Jolie.
Thank you.
Jessie?
I didn't come up the traditional administrative career ladder. I started my career 15 years ago working in practice operations and used that more entry-level job as an opportunity to learn about what careers there were available to someone with a health management background. And so I did a lot of job shadowing and informational interviewing, and I can't recommend that highly enough to those who are either early in their career or exploring a potential shift. That's where I found quality and patient safety, and that's what I've been working in the past 13 years on the functional side of that. Last year, I began as our administrative director and have been enjoying this first year in more of the administrative and operations space. I would say my best advice that I've heard and that I can give to you is to be really open to new experiences and don't wait for people to notice what's piquing your interest. Really speak up, ask questions, look for inroads to explore some of your interest areas, and really be your own advocate. I think taking the opportunities to stretch, even when it's outside your job description, is really helpful because that's where the growth and learning happens. And that's where you're able to demonstrate some of those skills to advance your career.
Wonderful. The last question I wanted to kind of pass to you, Jessie, to talk about is we hear so much about inclusion, diversity, and equity and what Dana-Farber is doing as a whole to champion those efforts. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Department of Quality and Patient Safety is doing for that?
Happy to. So you cannot have high quality care without equity. And so I'm really proud that our department recognizes that connection between quality and equity in our mission, our operating priorities, and our organizational structure. We approach all of our work and projects with an equity lens, and we actually have a team now dedicated to working on identifying and rooting out potential disparities in care. And they have many different focus areas, but a big focus area right now is on disability competent care. And how do we convene stakeholders from across the Institute to come together to improve the way that we systematically identify and then accommodate potential needs? And so there's a campaign coming later this year that you'll hear quite a bit about. However, I am happy to talk offline about our work in the equity space, as well as any interest you have in quality management.
Thank you both so much. I think we have a couple of minutes. Are there any questions, Izzy, that we could take? Okay. Well, I know one question that had come up frequently in the Q&As when everyone was registering was really around advancements in the career ladders for administrative positions. So currently we have an administrative support specialist level 1, and we have a level 2, which is a great growth opportunity with a little bit more responsibilities. From there, you can grow into a program administrator, like Jolie mentioned, a department administrator or administrative director. There's just a lot of different avenues to grow within this space. So I think it's definitely a great entry point for somebody who wants to get into administrative side of healthcare. Thank you both so much for taking the time to discuss these positions with everyone today. As Julie had mentioned, we do have several open. We have 9 current administrative support specialists 1 and 2s open. So please, I encourage you to check the internal careers page. Send me a message if you would like to discuss any of these roles specifically. We'd be happy to talk to you about them. All of these positions require a minimum of a high school diploma and at least 3 years of relevant experience. And that could be customer service, healthcare, administrative, we accept all of that. And for now, I will be handing it off to my colleague, Lauren Butler, who will be spotlighting access and financial engagement. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Elena, and good morning. My name is Lauren Butler, and I am the Pipeline Program Coordinator for Adult Development Programs with the ID&E Office of Workforce Development. I have the pleasure this morning of speaking with Andreen McFarland and Kelly Joyce, 2 senior leaders with the Department of Access and Financial Engagement. Thank you so much for being here. And starting with you, Andreen, can you please just introduce yourself, give us your title and your department?
Sure. So I'm Andreen. My name changed recently, so sorry. Andreen Smith McFarland.
Sorry.
Previously. It's totally fine. I'm still getting used to it. I am the senior manager for our registration and admissions teams here at Dana-Farber. And I'll pass it on to Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for having me on the panel. My name is Kelly Joyce. My title is Associate Director at Access and Financial Engagement, and I oversee our financial clearance and financial counseling teams here in Access.
Excellent. Thank you both so much. Andrea, let's start with you. What exactly is access and financial engagement?
So it is kind of what it sounds like, but not really. So what our department does is kind of help with patients' access to care at Dana-Farber, as well as helping them engage in their final financial clearance process in order to be seen here. As you know, as a lot of people know, healthcare is stressful enough, especially when you come to a specialty hospital like Dana-Farber. So having to throw on any type of financial responsibility on top of that is really difficult for the patient. So what my team does is, we help get you in the door. We create those medical record numbers. We make sure all your demographic and insurance information is correct. We take that first pass at making sure that your insurance is accepted here at Dana-Farber. And then Kelly's team, who is a financial clearance specialist and financial counselors, kind of help make sure that the patients have the least amount of financial responsibility as possible. So access and financial engagement here at Dana-Farber.
Thank you so much. Yeah, needless to say, something that we don't always think about, but so important. Kelly, can you tell us about a role you're currently hiring for, what the day-to-day responsibilities look like, and if there's any patient interaction in this department?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have a few roles available right now in financial counseling. So I think we have 4 openings at the moment. And so there is patient interaction in any role really in access and financial engagement, but especially with financial counseling because they are hybrid roles, but we do provide on-site support for patients who need to do something as simple as update their registration or have more complex needs where they may need to apply for Mass Health, for instance. So definitely patient interaction, both in person and on the phone. I think the day-to-day activities, they definitely vary. We have sort of, we have workflows for everything. And so your assignment that day could be you could be on the phone and you could be registering patients who have what we would consider to be like a high risk plan, meaning, they may need a little bit special attention to sort of get in the door of Dana-Farber, but you could be registering and focusing on identifying insurances and talking patients through that, or you could be providing on-site support by helping people apply for Mass Health or taking a payment from somebody who would like to make a payment on their account. So the job duties definitely vary. It is definitely a very patient-focused position. And I think Andreen and I will both agree, we both have a big focus on customer service for our team. And we're actually about to embark on a little bit of like a mini project in our department to sort of focus on really bringing the patient experience when it comes to the financial piece up to the same level as the clinical care that we provide for patients.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you mentioned customer service. Is there another skill or skills that kind of jump to mind that you feel that would make someone very successful in this kind of role that particularly kind of is a good fit?
I mean, I would say that if you have experience with insurance, so if you have done, a little bit of registration, or if you have done anything having to do with authorizations or referrals, like those are the sort of the more technical skills. But I think, and I think it was Jesse who said on the, with the last spotlight about just being the non-technical skills, like the soft skills. So to me, it's like, especially if you are already a Dana-Farber employee and you have been for a year or more, you probably already have the basis for what we need in access and financial engagement. We can teach you about insurance. It is complicated and ever-changing, and I think it is a topic that a lot of people sort of don't want to touch because it is complicated and it's not necessarily the best part of what of getting healthcare, but I think that we can teach you that part. So if you have good customer service skills, or if you are a Dana-Farber employee who is sort of familiar with the culture and the goings on of Dana-Farber, you probably have what we need to be successful in the role. My number one thing that I look for when I'm interviewing somebody is really the ability to be flexible because in healthcare, we are really constantly having to shift. When it comes to insurance and the financial piece, we are having to shift. We are having to redo workflow so that we are compliant with different regulations. So it is an ever-changing, type of role. And so I think flexibility and the willingness and ability to sort of learn new things would take you far in a role like this.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Dream, kind of a follow-up to that. Can you talk a little bit about any advancement opportunities that are available within the department? Are there places that people can kind of grow their career and
Sure.
what that might look like?
Sure. So recently we did kind of a market analysis and reorganized our department and created a career ladder. So before we kind of had just everyone was the same level, and then we had some promotions to people like individuals who were team leads. But now we have ones and twos. And so for my teams, we have registration specialists, ones and twos, and then we have people who can move into senior roles, similar with Kelly's roles as well. We have ones, twos, and senior, the ability to move into more of a senior role. And not only, so just to share, access and financial engagement is only part of a much larger department, which is access management. So we are only one half of that extra large department, but there's opportunity to grow within that entire department. So, I consider registration entry level. I also oversee our admissions teams, not to like downplay them. They do a lot of the inpatient stuff. But the same thing, we have ones and twos. They do authorization work as well, and those have ones and twos. So there's opportunity for career advancement there. But then we have a whole nother team within access management, which is referrals and clinical authorizations, and you have the ability to move up through there as well. And they also, I think, have implemented ones and twos as a career ladder within their teams. So there's absolutely opportunity for growth, starting from a registration level, moving up into financial counseling, moving up into authorization specialists. So there's definitely opportunities there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Kelly, I'm going to bounce back to you for a minute. What do you like most about working as a member of the Access and Financial Engagement team? And on the flip side of that, what can be a challenge?
I would say for me, the thing that I probably enjoy most about working, in this type of position can also be the thing that can also be the most challenging, which is kind of what we've alluded to already, which is that, I think for many people, insurance and the financial piece is the part of their care journey that they would like to think least about, right? Like, and unfortunately, that is also not always possible. Like, we quite often have to do a lot of work to make sure that patients have access to the care that they need here, and also to, mitigate any financial risk to them. So I would say, dealing with patients is number one, the most rewarding part of this job, but also recognizing that patients may not always be so eager to talk to me. And that can be the challenging part, right? And trying to balance that, trying to balance the patient's experience and their, what they get out of the financial side of their care every day, trying to balance that with, the reality, the sometimes disappointing realities of, we didn't get that referral, or we didn't, whatever, we didn't get. So I would say the thing that I like the best and is the most rewarding about a job like this is dealing with people and having the knowledge that they are looking for. So, being able to answer questions for people, and a lot of times being able to sort of calm any worries or anxiety that they might have by giving them that information, being able to offer them information, resources, reassurance, like just to be able to give that to patients is, you can sometimes just feel the relief, because it can be such an overwhelming topic for patients. So I would say that is rewarding and the thing that I like the best, but can also be because of the type of work we do, can also be the most challenging part of the job.
Yeah, that makes sense. Andrew, would you agree with that assessment? Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Absolutely. And I say this to our teams a lot, like, we're here for the patients. And like, they make the job worth it. And I actually have team members who say that all the time. Like, I just got a call with a patient, and they make this so much, like, working so much better, right? And to add to what Kelly said, I think we have like a really awesome team. Like, our leadership team is really awesome. I could call on Kelly for anything. I could send her a message right now in Teams, and in the middle of this, she'd be looking up whatever I asked her for. And similar with the team themselves, right? So we have a great leadership team. Our supervisors, our senior director, are all amazing, and then the team themselves, and they make me want to be better and do better, and continue to foster teamwork, and just really, it's just a really great experience.
I love that. It's all about the people, right?
Yeah.
Andreen, I'm going to continue with you. I think a lot of people sometimes are not sure, like, how did someone end up in their career? Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of ended up or chose this career, and maybe give the people here today one piece of advice for someone who might be interested in working or exploring working in access and financial engagement?
Sure. So I've been in healthcare quite a long time. I've been doing this type of work for 21 years, something somewhere around there. And I just feel like healthcare was always in me. My parents both work in healthcare. I actually wanted to be a doctor, and then I took chemistry in school and was like, this is just not, I don't want to do this. But never strayed from healthcare. I also have a degree in nursing. And while I like the clinical side, the administrative piece for me was just always, I can help you in more than one way, right? And I think being bedside was amazing, but I loved being able to say, how are we going to help you figure out your care, or how do we make sure that your information is correct so that your providers can provide you the best care? Um, so for me, the administrative side was just super important. Um, and if I had to give advice, and I think Kelly said it earlier, was being flexible, understanding that healthcare changes so frequently and so rapidly. January 1st is a killer for us because insurances change
Yeah.
so often. What they cover changes so often, and we have to stay on top of those things. And so I think being flexible and being willing to learn.
Mhm.
And
Definitely.
being willing to learn outside of the scope of your role, because that can only help you advance. That will give you an edge over someone else because you took the time to learn something different while in the role that you're in. So being flexible and just being open to learning new things.
Yeah, good maxim for all of us, I think, but probably very important in your role. Kelly, kind of same question. Can you just give us a tiny bit of background on how you ended up where you are today? And if you had, it sounds like you had the same piece of advice, but something different, or just like something from your own experience that you've learned, like a takeaway that maybe you could share with the attendees here today. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So I have also worked in healthcare close to 20 years, and specifically in access management. So I've worked in a few different hospitals in the Boston area over the past couple of decades, and but always doing this type of work. And I started as a scheduler. I started in an entry-level role, and sort of worked my way up, I guess you could say, over the years. And I think the things that I would offer to anyone who was interested, I mean, I guess it could really be it could be just general career advice, but if you were specifically interested in something in this type of role and access, I would say, the things that served me well were things like going out of my comfort zone, which has been said here a few times, right? Like, and that could be anything from as simple as like, you know, just asking and inquiring and trying to learn about a different aspect of, Dana-Farber or your job, or, it could be as simple as that, or it could be something like asking for an opportunity to participate on a big project, or, like there's no shortage of those here at Dana-Farber. So asking to be exposed to those types of things, I think, can only serve you. You will not only show your team and your leadership that you are wanting to do more for yourself and the team, but also you will learn more. And so you will, by being exposed to these different experiences, you may identify something that you really want to, that you really enjoy and you want to work on, and you may sort of find a niche for yourself in your career. So that has always served me well, sort of going out of my comfort zone, asking for opportunities, and then things as simple as, engaging with the team. So like participating in meetings and being on, in this day and age, it's being on camera, but it was being in person, for so many years, it was all in person, but like, participating in the meetings, asking questions, offering suggestions. And, to me, those are the things that have always served me well, because then when there is an opportunity for advancement, or there is a project that they need representation from your department, you will more likely be at the top of that, top of mind for people who are making those sorts of selections. So those are the types of things that have always served me well, and I think could apply to probably any job, but especially in access.
Yeah, absolutely. What I think is interesting, and also probably a theme I would imagine throughout today, is that no one usually starts out with the idea of doing the job that they're in, right? We didn't think like, oh, I'm going to go to school for access and financial engagement, or in my case, for workforce development. But they kind of find a way of finding you with your strengths. So I guess a follow-up kind of thought to that is, if someone's watching today, like the person we had in the beginning, Valerie, who was talking about her experience, and they think, maybe they're working in security or, in another area of the hospital, and they're thinking, well, you know what, I kind of like the patient interaction, and I like, figuring things out, being a problem solver. What would you advise in terms of next steps for them? Would you recommend that they kind of reach out to someone in your department, reach out to us? Just apply for things that interest them? Kind of, what would your thoughts be?
I would say definitely apply, first of all, but then also like reach out, right? Like, so, if you are interested in a role in access and financial engagement, you're more than welcome. And I'll offer Indreen as well, but you're more than welcome to reach out to either of us, and either we can, it may be our role, or we can connect you with the right person on our team to sort of talk about next steps. So absolutely reaching out and not being afraid to reach out, and definitely applying. Those are like probably the easiest ways. One thing I always tell my team, and also would tell anyone else who was sort of interested in growing and maybe getting a new role, take advantage of what Dana-Farber has to offer. Take an Excel class and sort of become an expert in Excel. Take a medical terminology class so that you can, build your own skills. And I think Dana-Farber does a really nice job of offering some of those sorts of or a lot of those sorts of resources to our employees. So I would highly encourage, and I do encourage my own team to take advantage of what's offered here at Dana-Farber.
So thank you so much. It looks like we have one question. Izzy, could you just, if we have a question about the access management roles, is there, are there other opportunities, or what is listed right now? This person has asked about access management, business analyst, registrar, supervisor role, and a senior manager access management role. Do any of those kind of jump off at the page as, roles that you're kind of really need to fill right now, or things that you might advise someone, if they're interested but they're not quite there yet, to maybe take some of those steps that you're talking about these like classes through the Project University, to prepare a path for themselves to get there in the future? Does any of that, or do any of those roles kind of like fit into what we're talking about today in terms of next steps?
I don't, so definitely registrar, I would say is one of ours. Some of these other ones, like I am just business analyst, I'm not sure that necessarily is one of our, so I apologize, I'm hesitating because I'm trying to identify which role the business analyst would be. But as Andreen mentioned, access and financial engagement is a part of a bigger department of access management. So those roles may be just on our other half of the analyst role might be in our other half. And meaning, so I don't, for anyone who might know, that would be like Stacy Rosenblum, Josh Weinstock, Pat Kelly. They oversee those areas, and Andreen and I work very closely with that team on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome.
But I would say registrar is for sure one. Andreen, you have registrar positions open right now. That would be considered I would consider that a great sort of entry into access and financial engagement. Exactly.
Awesome, thank you. We have our last minute here. Andreen, I don't want to cut you short. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, or pretty much did Kelly sum it up?
Nope, Kelly summed it up. So a lot of those positions are on our business analyst for sure is on our other team's side, but we definitely have registration positions open and posted. I think Kelly also has. So it'll be listed as registration specialists on the career website. And Kelly, I believe yours is patient financial counselor.
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for your time today and for sharing your expertise and your own journeys to where you are today. I'm now going to pass it over to my colleague, Jessica DeFilippo, to talk about clinical research.
Hello, everyone. Lauren, you got my last name. You're all good. Thanks for passing off the mic. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. My name is Jessica DeFilippo. I'm one of the recruiters on the talent acquisition team, specializing in clinical research. So today I'm excited to spotlight the clinical research space. I'm here with Ketki Bhushan. Ketki's an associate director within the pediatric oncology clinical research space, and I'd love to turn it over to her to allow her to talk about her career path at Dana-Farber and a little bit about her role and department. So Ketki, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here and thank you for having me. This is a great event and I'm so happy to talk about clinical research. So I have been at Dana-Farber for, I was counting earlier today, about 13 years, hitting about my 13-year mark. And I started off as a research coordinator here at Dana-Farber after graduation in the phase 1 group on the adult side. So I was in the adult oncology side of things for about 8.5 years. Started off as a coordinator, was interested more in learning more about the role, moved into a senior coordinator role that spanned coordinator activities and regulatory coordinator role, and then moved into became the manager for the group because I was interested sort of furthering into the career ladder. Was a manager and senior manager for about 5 years before moving into operations and an associate director on the pediatric side. So I've been an associate director in pediatric oncology for the last 2.5 years, and happy to be here and answer questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. I'll kind of kick things off just to transition. I'll highlight some of the entry-level roles that we traditionally see within clinical research. So at any given moment through the course of the year, I think obviously Ketki can speak to this, but our clinical research departments across all disease groups, we hire for 3 entry-level positions, one being the clinical research coordinator, the other being a research data specialist, and lastly, a regulatory coordinator. All of these positions require a bachelor's degree and 0 to 1 years of relevant experience. So given these 3 roles, Ketki, I'd love for you to start just kind of talking through the day-to-day responsibilities for these positions. And if you could highlight any patient interaction that there is involvement in, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe I'll start with clinical research coordinator. And so clinical research coordinator role, like you said, it requires a bachelor's degree. And so it's an entry-level position. We see a lot of applicants and current staff members who graduate from college and then apply to the role. The research coordinator role is quite interesting because I think it's at the crux of everything that happens within the clinical trial. So the coordinators on a day-to-day basis are interacting with the research nurses, the providers who are caring for the patients, clinic staff, so infusion floors, regulatory team, in interacting with that, and really coordinating, I think that as the name suggests, like coordinating activities of the trial. They're also the ones who, are in touch with external collaborators. So if we have any, trials that are sponsored by pharma companies and industries, they're usually that contact to collaborate with them on a more day-to-day basis. Depending on the group and sort of the structure of the group, there is different varying levels of patient interaction. So for some of the trials that are more sample work and biobanking and surveys, we have quite a few that is more data collection and patient-reported outcomes. Coordinators have a direct facing role with patients. They go into clinics, see the patients. And for some of the other trials that might be more high-risk trials that are more drug trials, they're part of more of a team with the provider and the nurse. And so there's different varying levels of patient interaction.
Awesome.
With the regulatory coordinators. So the regulatory coordinators is a very important role because they help sort of manage all the regulatory aspects of the trial. And so it involves, internal and external submissions. So like working with the IRB, submitting our trials, if there's any FDA requirements for the trial. So working with those, there's part of like project management some of those project management tasks too. So that's a good sort of role where you're learning, a little bit about project management as well. And really helping move the trial along, making sure everyone is compliant with policies, with SOPs, maintaining their training. So that's an important role because I think we really heavily rely on them for that. And then research data specialist is a role that's more with the adult oncology side versus pediatric. We don't have that many research data specialists. They focus primarily on the research data. All the wonderful work that we're doing here generates a lot of data, which is what we need to, support the work we're doing and then potentially move these trials towards, approval and potential treatment options for patients in the future. So a lot of research data and data that's collected that has to be, verified, quality controlled, and the research data specialists play a very important role in that.
Awesome. No, thank you for the detail. And would you say for the research data specialist and regulatory coordinator roles, is there any patient interaction with those?
Right. Those are roles that don't have direct patient interaction. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you for clarifying. And I guess given these positions, what would you say are maybe some qualifications or skill sets that would help make someone successful in these roles?
Yeah.
Maybe if you want to start with clinical research coordinator and go down the list again.
Yeah. I would say, with obviously, I think for all three roles, perhaps maybe obviously, as the qualifications that are required for the job in terms of a degree. But I would say, with someone with a science interest, like a healthcare interest, that is definitely one, I think, or curiosity. I think there's sometimes too, right? I think a lot of when you're new and in an entry role, if I have to think back, I didn't know where I wanted to be, right? But I wanted to explore and kind of try out. And so I think having that openness to learning, there's a lot of learning that happens. And I think, obviously about the roles, new systems, new policies. So there's a lot of learning to do. And so being open to learning, being patient with yourself and being patient to the process. And I would say critical thinking and curiosity that comes with time and experience, but that is something that we do. Our goal is that as we're training you and giving you the basics, that you continue to build on those foundations. And especially for coordinators, there's because it is related to patient care. We're dealing with patients, so sometimes you have a plan and a to-do list for the day, and you know what, it's 5 p.m. and you still haven't gone through your to-do list because your day just looked different, and that's fine. That happens. So I think being open that you can have a plan for the day, but then it might not go according to that, and someone who's adaptable. I think that's important for research coordinator. For regulatory coordinators and RDSs, I would say, those, I think sometimes the regulatory submissions, they happen over a period of time, but realizing too that I think it's small tasks that have a huge impact. So, I think if there is something that is, we do have, I think they also help with a lot of like audit prep. And so I think their role to having that, the attention to detail, I think that's definitely one where we are really relying on them to look through information with a fine-tooth comb, potentially identify issues because we always have to be audit ready. And so really, and highlighting, if you notice an issue, if you think a process is not working, we are relying on them to highlight that so that we can collectively work on it.
Perfect. No, thank you. That was great. I love what you said about trusting the process. I think that goes across all just job search related items in general. Great. And I guess if you could highlight just typical schedule, dynamic workforce location. I know for all three of these roles, it could be a little bit different, whether it's on-site, hybrid, fully remote.
For research coordinators, because there's a lot more, they are clinic facing and they, have patient interaction level. So research coordinators primarily on the adult side are what the workforce location is on site. So I think they have up to 1 day remote where we do and a lot of coordinators do take advantage of that. And sometimes that is definitely something helpful that's needed. On the pediatric side of things, the coordinators are in a hybrid setup. So that's up to 3 days on site, 2 days option to work from home. And for the regulatory coordinators and RDSs, those are hybrid or remote where they have less days on site. So it would be 2 or 1 day remote. 2 or day 1 on site.
Okay.
The rest would be work from home. Yeah.
And based on your experience on the adult side and pediatrics, would you say it changes based on like adult side or pediatric based on the dynamic, or would you say
Yeah,
it's
I would
mostly the
say
same?
based on like the workload and kind of the setup. Yeah, that
Okay.
is different. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then if you don't mind highlighting maybe the most exciting parts of either these positions or being on your team, and then also maybe some of the most challenging aspects as well.
Yeah. I would say the exciting part of it is really, I think if I can think about two things, is that on a day-to-day basis, or just knowing that what we do on a day-to-day basis has an impact and a big impact. We might not see it, maybe directly if you're not, say, I think for a lot of the staff, where if you're not directly dealing with a patient, sometimes you're like, what the work am I doing? Is it impacting? It is, there's an impact. Definitely. We've had a lot of patients and families come back or even remember, and just I think little things where they're able to celebrate the next birthday or have a better quality of life. So knowing that what we do on a daily basis is impacting someone's life, and we are providing care and we're providing a better quality of life, I think that's been huge. What I think motivates me to continue on doing every day, and I do tell my staff and any new members entering our team, is that it's easy to forget that, in the day-to-day rigmarole where you're so caught up and you're like, oh, I just have everything to do. It's just that, take a step back and kind of think about where you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And I would say the other part, the exciting part about the job is honestly, I think the people that we work with, everyone that we work with, they're so inspiring. And just, everyone has, a different story. So just like listening to how everyone got, and even from today, I think, just how, just listening to all the panels that have been talking, everyone coming in with a different role, a different vision, but we're all together here to do that. And I think that has been most apparent to me, definitely in times of need where, say, maybe a team member, unexpectedly has to go out, where everyone jumps in, without even saying, okay, well, I already have 5 things on my list I cannot take on. It's something that's needed. So I think we kind of, accommodate and make sure that we're able to support the program. So I think that's really inspiring to see everyone, the effort that's put in. Challenges, I would say, yes, sometimes it does feel like it's a lot to do. And, you have to pace yourself to that, to prioritize and reprioritize and talk about it, right? I think that's another thing where talk to your manager, talk to them. Maybe, there needs to be, maybe we're not prioritizing it correctly, or maybe there is a need for reprioritization and sort of redistribution of work. So I think that's, we are, the work that we do is high impact. And so sometimes, and everyone has a different, I think at a skill set level. So that's definitely, I think that can sometimes feel challenging, for sure. And I would say that's the main one. Yeah.
Perfect. No, thank you for sharing. That was great. And then last question that we had prepared, and then we'll kind of open it up for Q&A. But as you talked through your career growth and you've kind of gone through the ladder within clinical research, is there anything that you could draw from in terms of advice or something that you would want to say to someone that's looking to enter the clinical research space for the first time?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that opportunities exist. I would say that's not every role and promotion that I received or moved into was something that was given. I asked for it too. So I was open about, asking for feedback, kind of, what is needed for me to move on to the next level, looking around to see if there's other positions or what other opportunities exist, within the program, within the institute. I think, there are a lot of roles. I mean, and through my group, but like even staff that we work with or had, that they were either a scheduler in the clinic or a clinic assistant or a pharmacy tech who was interested then further, in a couple of years to be like, well, I want to see, how the field of clinical research is very broad, has a very broad scope. And so they were interested, they reached out, and in my experience in 13 years, I have not come across any person at Dana-Farber, if you reach out and say, I'm curious about it. Can I ask you about your position, how you got into it, that you get a no. Maybe you'd be like, okay, well, maybe not today, but another day, and that's totally fine. But we never get a no as an answer. And so reach out. I mean, I reached out to managers when I was not a manager to say, I'm curious about your career growth. What are some, suggestions, opportunities? Are there any certifications? Are there any courses you recommend? So definitely looking for those opportunities. They exist. I think we just have to make sure we're looking for them.
Yeah, definitely. Use your network for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, I know we wrapped up that portion a little bit more quickly, but I do have a couple questions that I think that have come through either from initial registration questions or questions in the Q&A. So I guess if you could talk about just the career ladder within clinical research, that would be super helpful. I think just upward mobility and kind of getting promoted within the clinical research space is definitely an area people had questions about. So if you don't mind just discussing that at a high level, that would be great.
Yeah. So I would say a research coordinator is a good place to start because I think it gives you a good idea sort of like the scope of the role. And from a research coordinator, thinking about all the different sort of paths people have taken, is moving, maybe focusing a little more, maybe on if the interest and focus is more on the regulatory side of things, you could move into the regulatory coordinator role and kind of move up that ladder. And we have regulatory operations managers too, so that kind of moves, if there is a manager level to that side of things as well. The other side would be project management. And so that is another realm where you are kind of overseeing an entire study, a project, and kind of dealing, managing all those aspects. And then I would say another side of things would be people management, right? So a research manager is kind of who has direct reports and personal management and kind of overseeing an entire team.
Awesome. Thank you. We did have another question come through because some individuals at the Institute may not have a bachelor's degree yet. So I know that's one of the minimum requirements, but is it worth someone who's maybe working towards their bachelor's? Is it worth applying? And maybe if you could shed some light on maybe any pipeline programs that we have going on within clinical research that could help someone getting into this space. Any details there would be great.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's definitely worth it too. I have worked with the workforce development. Last year, there was a curriculum and a pipeline we developed for the intern. There was a DFCI internship pipeline that was developed. I was one of the members of the committee as we work towards that. And it is a very robust training and internship program within with support from the clinical trials office and the workforce development team. And we've actually had, if graduate is a correct word to use, off those internship, of the pipeline who actually applied and are in research coordinator roles and regulatory coordinator roles at Dana-Farber. So yes, I would definitely encourage highly to look into that and apply for that.
Okay, amazing. And then I guess speaking from experience with open roles that maybe you have on your team or ones that you foresee this year, if you want to maybe highlight some positions within your scope that individuals could take a look at either on the careers page or keep an eye out for, that would also be great.
Yeah, we definitely have open positions and we always do. So we're excited to have new members join our team. So on the careers page, on the Dana-Farber careers page, if you look right now, we do have a few open positions. So we have 2 entry-level coordinator positions. So for CRC1 in our hematologic malignancy program for specimen-based work, and 1 within our pediatric neuro-oncology program. We also have 2 senior coordinator roles, 1 within our outcomes program, which is based on health equity outcomes, and our genomics team. So there's 2 of those as well. And then a little higher, further up, we're also looking for, there's an open manager position as well for 1 of our programs.
Amazing. Thank you. Let's see. I think that is all the questions that we had come through for right now. If there's anything else that individuals asked, we'll also make sure to respond and obviously get to them in the follow-up from this event. But Ketki, thank you so much for participating. It was great to just learn a little bit about your background and just the space that you're in and your department and your career growth at Dana-Farber. It was awesome to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'll now pass it off to my colleague Emil Ahmed, who will be spotlighting the core labs teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Emil Ahmed, and I'm a recruiter with the talent acquisition team. And today I have the pleasure of highlighting the core labs team. I'm joined by, or will be joined by, Michael Lavenberg and Emily Filipa. Thank you.
Hello.
Good morning, Emily. Good morning, Michael. I'm going to turn it over to Emily and Michael so that they can, or I'll turn it over to Michael and Emily so that they can share a few words about the department, tell you, introduce themselves, their title, and their roles. Michael, I'll get started with you.
Sorry about that. I was muted, of course. Thank you, Amel. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really pleased to be here and speak with you about the clinical lab along with Amel and Emily. I've been with Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for seven months now as the senior director of clinical lab operations. So I oversee Merrimack Valley, Chestnut Hill, and our Longwood lab facilities. And my journey in the clinical lab space started 30 years ago, and I'm here. It's a very rewarding job, and I couldn't be more happy with the institution and the staff and the work we do. The one thing that's very special about the lab is when you think about our patients or any patients that are seeking medical help, whether it be for an annual physical, they have an infection, or in our case, they come in, with a cancer diagnosis. 70% of a diagnosis is from laboratory results. And that's how important the work we do and the vital work we do every day. And if you think about that, 70% of a patient's diagnosis is based on laboratory findings. And that's, simply amazing. Like I said, thank you all for joining today. I'm here to answer questions and support your endeavors. And now I'll turn it over to Emily.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Vilapa, and I am the lab control supervisor here at Dana-Farber. I'm responsible for managing the daily operations of lab control. All right. So here at Dana-Farber, lab control is considered as the heart of the laboratory. Now, why do we say this? This is the reason. The reason is because if lab control will not work, then all the other departments will also not work. Okay. Why is that? Because all samples are dropped off at lab control. So what we do here at lab control is we process all our patient samples. We make sure that the samples that are collected are the correct samples for the different tests that are needed to be done. Now, we also make sure that the samples are labeled properly, the samples are sent to us correctly, and after everything checks out, everything we received here is the correct sample, correctly labeled and whatnot, then we start processing them. We receive them, and then we process them, and then we distribute them to the different departments that will be doing the testing. At Dana-Farber, we currently only have two lab departments. Two testing departments. We have chemistry and hematology. So all other samples that do not go to chemistry and hematology, we now send them over to different reference laboratories.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that brief detail about the lab. I'm going to come back to you and ask you a few questions. First one is, what has been your career path, and what advice would you give to someone who wants to grow in your area?
My career path. All right. So when I started, I first started not as a medical technologist, but I started as a teacher for medtech students. So I did this for almost 10 years. But then after, almost 10 years, I told myself, I think I want to do something different. So I wanted more of the action rather than, just teaching the theories. So I went back to laboratory work. Now in the lab, I started as a med tech, specifically in microbiology and molecular diagnostics. I was here for I've been in the microbiology and molecular diagnostics for like 17 years. In here, I started as a tech, as I've said, and by training well, learning new innovations, and then as I went along, I was mentored by my then supervisors. So I moved up the career ladder from a med tech. I moved up to being an assistant supervisor and then being a supervisor. So here at Dana-Farber, I have, I've been managing lab control and our CPP department for almost 2 years now. What my advice is for, those who want to grow in this field, number one, that person should have a passion for serving patients. We're in the healthcare department. So if a person is dedicated to his or her work, then first of all, coming to work in the morning will not be a burden. Some people tend to pull their feet, when they get up in the morning just so they can go to work. If you have passion for your work, you believe in what you do, coming to work will be a breeze. Excuse me. Also, number two, everyone should have a great attention to detail and should be a great multitasker. Now, why do I say this? Laboratory testing involves a lot of complicated testing, complicated resulting. Now, if the tech is not, does not have a good eye to catch errors, then eventually it is, the patient who will suffer from all of this. So it's very essential that tech should be able to perform their testing systematically and very accurately too, precise and accurate, so that, as I've said, all testing and all results will come out, correct for the, doctors to use. When I started being a med tech, everything was done manually. We had to measure everything by hand. Now, since we have automation, great innovation, a med tech now should be able to have great technology skills. Reason being, instruments break. Just like computers, they break. So having a good understanding of this technology will make things easier for the person, manning all these instruments. When it breaks, the person will be able to understand and, see what's going on, what should be done in order for these instruments to be back up. Because if the longer the instruments are down, then of course, the longer the turnaround time for this test to happen. Lastly, some people who wants to move in this field should never get tired of learning. As I've said, when I started medtech, everything was manual, but then because of innovations, we have to be updated. Our minds, our brains should be updated as to what's going on now, so that, eventually we can apply all these updates and innovations to, what's going on currently.
Thank you for that, Emily. What are the most exciting parts of working on your team, and what are some challenges that either yourself and or your staff face?
So first off, just want to say to everyone, I have a very great team here at Lab Control. So having a great team to work with is one reason, why coming to work is very motivating. Some people do not like, they have hesitancy in coming to work every day because they're saying, oh, I don't like seeing this person. But if you have a great team, then, you come to work, you smile because you see, the people you work with as, really good, coworkers. So, excuse me. So when you work with people having the same goal as you, which is in our case, serving our patients, our work becomes easier and more manageable. Also, the lab knows that providers rely heavily on test results, to diagnose diseases, to determine the prognosis, and monitor patients' results. So one of the challenges now in our job is to make sure that those results are being released, are precise and accurate. And, we have to make sure quality is on top of everything that we do. Now, for us to do this, as I've said, we do a lot of troubleshooting. So that's one thing that's really challenging, especially if something breaks and, you've done everything you think you can do, and still everything is not going as you like. Now, aside from managing your instrumentation, you need to be able to communicate with the providers who are relying or waiting for those results, that, hey, there is a little bit of delay, in testing, all those things are the challenges that we face, in doing lab works. Also, little things like providers not giving us the correct samples. So, we communicate with them, but then there's always a delay in communicating back to us, and then they look for results. So, those little things are, things that matter a lot with us.
Thank you for that. And I can attest that you do have a wonderful team. I do enjoy supporting the core lab team. So thank you for that. What are some opportunities for growth in your area? And I'll preface this by saying to everyone that we don't currently have any roles open in Emily's side of the house, which is the laboratory control. So lab control tech positions are what we would see in Emily's wheelhouse. At the moment, her lab is fully staffed, which is amazing for us. But we do have some med tech roles. But I'll let you, Emily, talk about what a lab control tech role looks like for you, and what's an ideal candidate when we fill those positions.
Yeah. So here at Lab Control, and and it's the same thing with chemistry as well as hematology. We have three different levels of in Lab Control, three different levels of Lab Control technicians. We have a Lab Control Technician 1, and then 2, and then 3. Now, depending on training, experience, and some other factors, techs could move up from being a Tech 1 to a Tech 3. Same manner for chemistry as well as hematology. They have the MedTech 1s, MedTech 2s, and MedTech 3s. And then again, depending on certification, education, MedTechs can be distributed into those different levels. One thing that's really, really good in lab control, this is lab control only, so this is an entry-level position. Some of my techs are actually high school graduates. So what they do while working at lab control, they continue on with their studies. So they get their bachelor's degrees, so what happens is whenever there are openings in chemistry or hematology, we actually encourage these employees to apply to chemistry or hematology. I know, lab control loses employees, but this is going to be good for them because this is a step up to being a lab control tech, from being a lab control tech to being a med tech. Of course, from a lab control tech 3, if there's an opening, we can have an assistant supervisor and finally a supervisor.
Thank you for that. And my final question for you is, what is your department doing to champion diversity and inclusion and equity?
In lab control, I've always had an open communication policy among us. We always have huddles, and we discuss not only operations in our huddles, but also issues that we see going on in the department. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who are not comfortable, talking in a big group. So I always encourage them to see me, the office is always open. See me during their free time if they want to, tell me whatever's bothering them. I also schedule one-on-ones with everyone in my group because, as I've said, not everyone is comfortable talking, and not everyone also will come, will volunteer to come to my office. So what I do, I schedule a one-on-one, and then we chat here in the office. We chat from, we talk about how everything's going on, with work. Sometimes I talk, we talk about, personal things, because personal life obviously has a great effect to professional life. Some people cannot separate them. They bring over their personal life to work. So, and some people do not have a way of venting outside of work. So, I give that platform to them. And by doing this, I think I'm able to address, issues that come up in the laboratory. Yep.
I'm going to hit you with one last question because
Sure.
you've been here for so long and you've had such a successful career here at Dana-Farber. And I think that's what we're trying to highlight today, your longevity and the ability for you to grow within the Institute. What would you say, or I guess if someone was willing and wanting to grow at the Institute, but didn't have an idea of where to start, what are some advice that you can give them of where to start within the Institute, or who they can reach out to if they are interested in core labs, for example? Should they reach out to you or Michael, or are there any other people on the heme side that they can reach out to as well?
So here in Core Lab, so you've met Mike, he's our senior director. He's not here all the time because he has other satellites to manage. But aside from him, we have our operations manager. He is just by the elevator. So if you come here to Smith Building, second floor, once you come out of the elevators, his office is right across. So, he's very friendly. You can always talk to him about, what's going on in the lab, or, he can advise you. If not, currently our chemistry lab supervisor is vacant. That position is vacant. So if there's anyone there who wants to, apply for the job, it's open. Mike is there, he's waiting. Hematology, supervisor, we have Genevieve Matnog. She's also very friendly. You can always talk to her, and me here in lab control. Now, one thing that I tell everyone, for people who come to the lab, people who I interview for work, I always tell everyone that the Dana-Farber lab is not a very big lab. So we work very closely with one another. We actually call each other by first names, so everyone is friendly, everyone is very helpful. So in the event that you have questions about the lab, you can just shoot us an email, or come visit the lab, better yet. Yeah.
And Michael, I'm going to pose that same question to you. It's been a pleasure onboarding you and having you join the Institute and working with you as we've started this journey together, you and I. What would you say has been some of the most rewarding things working at the Institute for you that you've found, working either with this team or just in general, working here at Dana? And then the same question to you, what advice would you give someone who is interested in learning about our lab or roles in our lab and how they can get into core labs and join? What would you say?
Well, I'll answer the second part first. As Emily said, please don't be shy about reaching out. You can reach out to Amel, to Emily, to myself, any number of people within the lab. I'd be more than happy to meet with anybody, take you on a tour of our lab. As Emily said, we have a small lab, but it's very representative of what laboratories are about in the clinical space. And if it's something that you have any interest in whatsoever, please come down, whether we have a job opening or not, because eventually we will have openings. And as Emily attested to, she oversees lab control, and I tell her this, as she stated on this call, that they're really the heart of our lab. They manage the day-to-day operations of all our samples, and without them, we're stuck. And a lot of Emily's staff has transitioned into the lab through, whether it's because they had the educational background to begin with, and it was just a stepping stone for them, or as they pursue a degree, there's an opportunity to go into the lab. So once again, if you have any interest, please, don't be shy about reaching out. We'd love to have you down and take you on a tour of our lab. As far as, rewarding is, what's most rewarding part about this to me, and this is from the heart, and I'm sincere about this. Emily said this as well. I got a fantastic team. The people I work with are really, the best I've done in 30 years. They're caring. They have wonderful personalities. They care about their staff. They care about the patients, which is near and dear to my heart, because that's what we're here for. The patient should be at the center of everything we do. And I couldn't be more pleased with my staff, and they work hard every day, and a good portion of that work is supporting the staff and everything we do and how to improve. I've had a 30-year journey here. I've been on the commercial lab side. I've been in the hospital lab side. I've been on the research side. And certainly what we do at Dana-Farber is, to have perspective that I do is really, I've reached the pinnacle of my career working for this institution. So it's and I mean that. And lab positions, you don't have to have an MD, a PhD, a bachelor's degree. There's opportunities for high school degree, associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and the diversity of roles that we have. And Emily spoke to this about, emerging technologies and innovation, where computers and the mechanics of what we do, the instrumentation, are going to open up new roles for people down the road. So it's really a great time to explore the lab. And what we do at Dana-Farber, like I said, it brings that all together. It's a wonderful place.
Thank you both so very much for joining us today. Thank you, Michael and Emily. I will now turn it over to my colleague, Afia, who's going to take us over with some closing remarks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Emil. My name is Afia, and I am one of the recruiters with the talent acquisition team. This wraps up our 2024 Road to Success event. Thank you again to everyone who attended. We are very grateful for taking the time to provide information to employees who are looking for opportunities for growth within Dana-Farber. A few housekeeping things. You will receive a follow-up email today with today's recording. So if you missed anything, you can always go back to review the information, all the information that's been shared today. You'll also get an email with survey links and all the resources that have been shared today as well, about the Internal Talent Network Carriers page, and also registering for our Networking Strategies workshop. Quickly, if you can scan the barcodes that are showing up on our backgrounds, it will guide you to complete a brief survey on your experience today. We will use those responses to help plan for future Road to Success events. And also for our internal employees, we are not done yet. As a follow-up, we will be hosting a professional networking strategies workshop on February 16th at 10 a.m. This workshop will be presented by the talent acquisition team. So we look forward to seeing you all there. And lastly, thank you so much to the talent acquisition team, onboarding, and also the workforce development teams for being part of the planning team. We appreciate all the time and effort that you have put into making this event a success. And again, thank you very much to everyone who attended today. We hope that, this workshop has been great, and we look forward to, seeing all the great things that come out of it.